Hey guys, today's video is all about staying youthful with your makeup. As I've been nearing 30, I've just noticed a lot of changes in my skin. This lovely guy has appeared over the last few years. I would not say that I have like aged skin by any means. I'm still pretty young, but there are a lot of tips and tricks that I use to keep my face looking as youthful and lifted as possible. So today I wanted to share those tricks with you. Before we get started, just total side note, the lighting is gonna be all kinds of crazy. The sun and the clouds are just testing me today. All right, so the first thing I wanna mention is an eye cream. Eye creams can really help make your under eyes feel very hydrated and also prep them for concealer, because there's nothing that ages somebody more than crusty, creasy, dry looking concealer. And I like to put it on top of my eyes as well. I feel like a lot of people neglect that area, but your eyelids can get just as crepey and dry looking. Next step for me is of course moisturizer. I like to use something that is fairly thick but also sinks into the skin. I'm using this Clinique Moisture Surge 72-hour auto replenishing moisturizer. As you can see, I am almost out. Really plumps things up. And don't forget right underneath the jawline and neck as well. I have tried to use certain primers and like line fillers underneath my makeup over the years, and they never seem to look right under my foundation. I just stick to moisturizer. That's just my way. Okay, so for concealer, it's really important to pick something that's not too dry and not too high coverage either. I find really full coverage, cakey concealers just look so old on people. I love mixing concealers. Right now I'm loving this e.l.f. HD lifting concealer. If you have dry under eyes that crease a lot, I highly recommend this. It's one of their old formulas. It's very, very cheap, but it is so beautiful and hydrating and smoothing. It's amazing. And I also have been loving this Estee Lauder Double Wear Radiant Concealer. And I just like to add a little bit of that to the mix. And I think you will see once I blend it out just how smooth and brightening but natural this looks. Look how glowy and just natural that looks. And while it might not be full coverage, I think that's key. So before I go in with my foundation, I am gonna do a little tiny bit of powder. Honestly, when I'm in a rush, I just like use my finger. This is the Fenty Beauty Invisimatte blotting powder. And it's a very, very thin formula. So I like to just place that kind of in my smile lines. And then adding a little bit of powder in my deepest wrinkles before I put my foundation on helps them not to settle into those lines. Because this is a thin powder, it's not gonna look cakey underneath of my foundation. And it's also a bit of a blurring powder as well, so I kind of get like a dual effect. For the face, it is very important to use something that is not gonna be too drying. I know it's especially hard when you have oily skin like I do to wear something that is very glowy and natural looking because you want it to last. But if you're going for a youthful look, natural and glowy is really the way to go. So I'm going to be using the MAC Face and Body Foundation today. I have the shade C1. This stuff is the bomb when it comes to undetectable, whoopsie, foundation. And the best way to use this, in my opinion, is with your fingers. And it's actually a little bit longer wearing than you might think. I do have oily skin, and no, this is not gonna last all day long. My oils will eat right through it, but it lasts probably about 4 to 5 hours. This is kind of why doing your foundation after your concealer makes a lot of sense, because you can kind of just blend it all together. You don't have that very like obvious white under eyes that can really age people. Another trick you can do is actually avoid putting foundation in your deepest wrinkles, and that way it literally cannot settle into your lines. I used to do that before I did the powder trick that I did. I used to do that. I used to totally avoid putting foundation right in this area. As long as my foundation matched my skin color pretty well, I could definitely get away with it. Even if you do what I did and put it everywhere, you can always take a sponge and kind of dab off any excess in your problem areas as well. And just to get you really up close, my skin is looking very dewy, very glowy. And obviously if you are somebody who does need to powder their face, I would highly recommend this Stellar Limitless Loose Powder. This is in the shade Glow 01, which you can get at Sephora. Again, this Fenty Beauty Invisimatte blotting powder, or something that has like a bit of a sheen and brightness to it, so it's not totally matte and flat, because matte faces tend to look a little bit older, so that's why I went with such a glowy look. But this KKW Beauty powder in the shade 1 Brighten looks a little scary in the pan because it's so bright white, but it's actually just like a very, very thin translucent powder that has like just a tiny bit of sheen to it. You may not really be able to see that, but it just like has this beautiful natural glow that does not look like highlighter or anything, that can really help to keep your complexion illuminated. And now on to a trick that I've actually shown you guys before in a video that was called How to Fake Cheek Filler. And basically the idea is you're drawing on very rounded, rosy, plump cheeks. And I do it mostly to take away from how prominent my smile lines are here. So what I like to do is I like to draw a line, draw a shadow that kind of goes along my cheek area here, just to like lift these lines. So I'll show you what I mean. I'm using this Charlotte Tilbury contour wand, which is like a liquid contour thing, but you can use like any kind of cream contour, even like powder or pencil type of contour product. And I'm just gonna use like the very, very corner of it because I don't want a massive line, but I like to smile and kind of see where this natural shadow is. And then just very, very lightly, I mean very lightly, follow that. I like to just blend it out. You can even create the illusion of rounded cheeks at the top, doing the same idea, especially if you've started to lose some volume right here. It's all an optical illusion. Okay, now once that is done, you're going in with a blush to kind of meld this all together. And I really like to use liquid blushes because again, they just like help to look glowy and young, but that's not to say you can't use a powder blush too. I would just opt for something that's not totally matte. So I'm gonna be using this Stila Convertible Color Cream Blush. This is in the shade Camellia, I'm not really sure how to say it. And I'm actually just gonna use the same brush that I was just using, and I'm just gonna really coat it and blend. Now for blush placement, as you can see, I'm keeping it really high up on my face. Like I'm honestly, like my brush is touching the underneath of my eyes. It's all about keeping the color very lifted and high up on your face. Mostly keeping it very rounded on the apples of my cheeks. I also like to bring a little bit of color on my nose. I've always liked to do this. I just think that looks like very cute and youthful as well. For brows, we're gonna keep it kind of big and fluffy. That tends to look a lot more youthful than small, skinny brows. Now I'm gonna go in with a little bit of mascara. Now you guys probably noticed that I skipped eyeshadow altogether, and that's just because a bare and bright eye tends to look more youthful, at least just on me, especially because I have hooded eyes, and as I've gotten a little bit older, the skin on my eyes is like a little bit thinner and crepier, so sometimes adding like a powder product, especially if it's matte, just makes me look a little bit older, and I don't really like how that looks. So I tend to keep things very, very natural when I'm going for this look. Before I do my lips, I'm gonna do one more thing to decrease my smile lines or deep wrinkles, and this is the No. 7 Instant Illusion Wrinkle Filler. And this is basically just like a silicone-y product that helps to blur lines. And I use literally the teeniest, tiniest amount, and I just like rub it between 2 fingers, and I just pat that on my smile lines, and it just helps to blur it. I find as long as you use a small amount, it doesn't like mess with my foundation or anything. And especially for like right here around my corners of my mouth, it just helps to blur the lines. And it might not look like really anything on camera, but honestly, this helps so much. Okay, for lips, I like to use something that's kind of a rosy neutral shade. I really love my NYX lip liner in the shade Natural. This is kind of like a Your Lips But Better. I also love this Marcel Velvet Gel waterproof liner in the shade Rosy Nude. This is a Canadian brand, I believe. And also MAC Soar. This is a little bit more darker and pinkier, but just picking something that is like a rosy nude usually will translate to a very youthful look. How many times am I gonna say youthful in this video? Anyway, I'm using the NYX lip liner, and I like to keep things very rounded, so I'll often fill in my Cupid's bow just to make it very round on top. Then I'll just kind of fill in with my pencil as well and give it a little blend with my fingers. I find that blotted lip look looks very young as well. Basically, this whole look is just about avoiding harsh lines. Now, if you tend to have kind of wrinkly lips, small lips, or very chapped lips, this next thing is going to change your life. This is the Smashbox Insta Matte, and this product was meant to transform your like satin or glossy lipsticks into matte formulas. Basically, all it is like a silicone that just totally blurs. And I'm gonna get right up close so you guys can see. Hopefully you guys can tell that that just like smoothed my lips out and makes them look, I don't know, more plump. Love that trick. I've been using it for years. And another product that does a very similar thing is the ColourPop Lippy Sticks Lip Primer. This is just like a clear lip balm that basically does the same thing, very blurring. Last step is just a setting spray. I really love MAC Fix Plus because it's one of the only setting sprays that I've used that actually makes my skin look juicier and less dry. So anyway, that's the end of this video. Subscribe if you want to subscribe. You can give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.